folks, welcome to Yellowstone National Park. I'm Lisa with Swifty Travels, and over the next 2 days we are going to be exploring as many sites as we possibly can here at Yellowstone. This is America's first national park. In fact, this is the world's first national park, and it is something that everyone needs to visit sometime in their lifetime. Yellowstone National Park was established March 1st, 1872, and it encompasses over 2 million acres. It's mostly in Wyoming, with a little bit in Montana and Idaho. The park sees over 4 million visitors per year, primarily in the summer months, so crowds are to be expected. I'll be referring to this official national park map during the tour so you can follow along and know exactly what areas we're visiting. We arrived through the western gate of Yellowstone about 8 a.m. in mid-June. The traffic wasn't bad. I guess we were there early enough. I had heard horror stories about the traffic. On our first day in Yellowstone, we traveled the upper loop of the Grand Loop Drive. I highly suggest spending a full day touring this loop. The landscapes were so varied. I feel like you get a bit of everything, with geysers, waterfalls, meadows, and tremendous mountains. I'd love to hear from you in the comments on which stop is your favorite. It is so hard to choose. As we entered from West Yellowstone, at the first intersection we turned left on 89 towards Gibbon Falls. These first hot, steamy springs caught our eye, so we turned into the first area for a quick look. The colors of the blue sky and the green forest were so vibrant first thing in the morning. It was gorgeous. With the wildflowers there. This is the Gibbon Falls stop. Right about here, this meadow opened up and we stopped to see bison off in the distance. We found wildlife in most of these open meadows throughout the park. In this instance, they were just a little too far away to capture with my camera. So this stop is the Artist Paintpot. Paintpot. The Artist Paintpot. Paintpots. So this is the Artist Paintpot stop. It's a 1 mile trail, and then there are a series of geysers and geothermal features here. We're gonna go see what's here. There's quite a bit of cars in the parking lot. All right, we are entering dangerous ground. Don't be this guy. The Artist Paintpot Trail is a 1 mile trail. It starts with a partially burned pine forest, and then it winds up and around a beautiful hydrothermal area with colorful hot springs, mud pots, and small geysers. Oh, look, the path goes up even higher, up that hill. Beautiful. The trail had a nice variety of features along with incredible views from above. I highly recommend. This is a loop. It goes up and around. Oh, we're going to capture it from above. Oh, and those mountains. Oh, how pretty. this one's bubbling. On our way to Norris Basin, we found another meadow full of bison, and the babies were so cute. We had our eyes peeled for the elusive white buffalo that was recently born in Yellowstone. Did you hear about that? We'll keep our eyes peeled for that one. All right, we are at the Norris Geyser Basin. This is one of the popular spots here, and it gets really crowded. And so if you drive in, if you make the turn in, you're gonna wait in your car for a while because people usually have to wait for someone to leave to get a spot. And they do have overflow parking out on the main road, and then you can walk the trail in if you'd like. We got lucky and we found a spot. Norris Geyser Basin. There's no restroom in Geyser Basin. And look at the people. It's now about 10 o'clock, so we entered the park around probably between 7:30 and 8 is my guess when we entered through West Yellowstone, and there was probably about 5 or 6 to 8 cars in front of us, so it wasn't too long of a wait to get in. But what you notice is each of the stops, there's a line for the restroom. Okay, here's a tip. Each of the main stops, there's usually a line for the restroom. But what you can find are these little picnic areas that are off along the road where there's not that many people there. And then you can use the restroom there and not have to wait. So that's a little tip for you. So here they have an information museum. Little spring hidden through here, and here is a little bookstore. National Park passports.
Let's put this in the bag.
Okay. Let's give me here.
What's nice about this area is how wooded it is, and there's quite a bit of shade. So here is what is at Norris Geyser Basin. And the last eruption of Vixen Geyser was on the 18th, so we don't know if any of these are gonna do anything or not. So here are the trails off of here. So we're gonna take a look at what's in the museum. Mostly information about the geyser basin and the names of the geysers and which one's the hottest, which one's the most acidic, which one's the most dynamic. The Norris Basin has many, many geysers, each with a unique name and unique properties. In fact, this area has hundreds of hydrothermal features. This basin holds the park record for the highest measured surface and subsurface temperatures, and it's also the most acidic.
The river goes around it.
Porcelain Basin Trail.
Yeah.
Most of the hiking areas in the park have these paved boardwalks that keeps you safe off the active hot ground, and they're all maintained very well. So no wonder the Norris Geyser Basin is so popular. This is spectacular, this huge area of the white rock and the geysers. Now the geysers, the real geysers, erupt very infrequently, but the steam vents are all over this area, and the pools are so turquoise and beautiful. And then you have the snowy mountains as a backdrop, starting to bubble up right in there. So all of a sudden, this geyser right here just started making a lot of noise and putting out some heavy steam just like that. Catches you off guard. It's extremely captivating. This is why it takes so long to get through the park, because you really want to spend some time at these locations. So there's several loops. There's one that goes to the right, there's one that goes through the center, and then around to the left. So we're going to take the path that goes to the right, because it looks like there's a lot of active steam geysers up this way. My daughter said this area felt very apocalyptic, and I agree. Wow. Yellowstone is the most geologically active place in the world. And they see about 5,000 earthquakes a year here. And they're mostly so small that you don't feel it. Now here you can see they're redoing the walkway. Our National Park Service hard at work. So this is the end of the path along the right side of the trail. And you get a real close-up view of all these the bubblers. There are over 300 geysers in this park, and there's over 10,000 geysers, mud spouts, vent holes, all the little open areas that are venting some sort of heat or steam in this area, the most in the entire world. So we're now taking the center boardwalk across the flats of the basin. And it's really neat. The water's super clear. You can see the rocks below. The colors of all the different springs, the blues, the greens, the oranges, it really makes for a spectacular show. So this loop goes here and all the way around, and then you can see up there is the museum up the hill, and then we took this path, that one that goes way up, way over to the end there. This says the constant geyser, nothing's happening here, and a whirligig geyser. That's interesting. It must do kind of a funky little, the whirligig geyser. Look at this green with the algae, like all the different minerals and the different type of life that thrive in this hot water. So it turns out that the different colors in that water indicate different levels of temperature. So the green is the cooler temperatures, and then where you see the orange, that's a lot hotter. At least in that one area we just looked at, that's what the sign indicated, and it would make sense. And my guess is the different type of bacteria and organisms that grow in the different temperature environments cause those different colors. Maybe it's also mineral related. That would make sense as well. I'm not a geologist. So Steamboat Geyser is the world's tallest geyser at 300 feet. And it is down this way a quarter mile, but it is not predictable like Old Faithful, so they don't know when it's gonna go off. And you can really smell the sulfur in this area. But wow, look at the colors here. It's a really nice path, a little bit of shade, beautifully maintained boardwalk, and some really tall, almost looks like an agave sprout, but I don't know that those grow up here. So I don't know what that is here. I think that's just like a pine tree that maybe never fully burnt down. And there's just one remaining stalk. Or, I don't know.
Oh, open range. Yeah. The ball went untouched.
If you know what those tall ones are and why they stick up so much higher than the rest, let me know. Well, there's a ranger program that meets at this upper platform. We're going to go up here and check out the view along with these other folks. And you can see it's really steaming. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's Steamboat, the largest geyser in the world. It's the world's tallest, unpredictable, infrequent. The last major eruption was on May 30th, just a couple of weeks ago. see where everything is dead around it. Continues down the hill. There are more of those steam geysers down there. We have many other stops we need to make in the short time that we're here, so we are heading out after looking at Steamboat Geyser. We're going to leave this particular area, but there is more to come today. So the restrooms here at the Norris Geyser Basin have several stalls and running water, so it's a good place to make a pit stop if you're here before you hit the road. And it is 11:30, and we've pretty much only made it from the West Yellowstone entrance here through Norris Basin, and it's already lunchtime. So things always take a little longer than you expect, but boy, is it worth it. And even the crowds, it's worth it. This is the most beautiful park. Now we just drove between the Norris Geyser Basin and Canyon Village, and we have stopped here to get our bearings because we'd like to see the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone and the waterfalls. So we stopped here so we could check out the map. But here you have Canyon Lodge is here at Canyon Village, and there is a big visitor center. There's a restaurant and grill, and it's about lunchtime, so lots of people have arrived to this area here in the center of the park. Now along the ride between the Norris Geyser Basin and Canyon Village, there's a little pullout called Virginia Cascades. So we took that road. It's about 2.5 miles of a one-way road that you can see these beautiful cascade falls down off the side of a cliff. It's really pretty. This crow is being very noisy. All right, so we're gonna try to get a good view of the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone next. So there's a pretty good sized parking lot here at Artist Point. We're here midday June on a Friday, and we were able to find a parking space. There was quite a few places open. So we're gonna walk down the path and get those beautiful views of Artist Point.
Yeah, he was telling people to. That would be really fun for you.
Just want to kind of capture what it's like with the people and upstairs. See what's up here. It's called the lower falls of the Yellowstone River, and these beautiful yellow rocks is where Yellowstone gets its name. So this is one of the most picturesque places of the park, and I believe that I learned that that waterfall is taller than Niagara. I'm gonna have to double check that fact. Now we're gonna see if we can check out that waterfall from a couple of different vantage points. All I can tell you is it looks unreal. It is so beautiful. And I had watched videos about Yellowstone prior to coming to kind of get my bearings, figure out what I really wanted to see, and nothing compares to seeing it in person. Now this is the Upper Falls viewpoint. It's along the same road as Artist Point. It's the first stop that you come in actually when you turn on the South Rim Drive from the main highway. They have a shelter here. Nice big parking lot and some vault toilets back over there. Now we're stopping at the brink of the Upper Falls, and in between the South Rim Drive and the North Rim Drive, there's a turnout for brink of the upper falls. Now I'm gonna guess that this is that platform where everyone was looking right over the upper falls. I'm guessing that's what's here. Now I read that there are over 300 waterfalls in Yellowstone National Park, and these are just massive. The sheer volume of water coming through these rivers is spectacular, especially from a desert rat like me that's not used to seeing this much water. Absolutely impressive. Here is all the things that we can see here. The upper overlook, the middle overlook, the lower overlook. There is a bear that frequents this area, it says. All right. Now we ended up not buying bear spray. We had intended on it, and then, I don't know, it was about 50 bucks. Then we heard you could rent bear spray, and then we considered that, and then we're like, well, that means you got to go back to the same place where you got it to return it. And once we got in the park, we realized that most of the places we were going were very well traveled. We were not doing any backcountry hiking, so we're gonna take our chances. So there are several lookouts. We're gonna go all the way down to the bottom one first and then work our way up. We want the splash zone experience. Now look how cool this is. The water is falling right there, and you can just stand on this bridge and watch it come roaring down. It's incredible. Very unique experience here. If you do have time, I recommend you coming to this particular spot, the brink of the falls. All right, brink of the upper falls has nice restrooms, multiple stalls, running water. If you're looking for that type of restroom experience, all the stops have at least vault toilets, but if there's only a couple of vault toilets, you're gonna have a line. So some of these other places are a little nicer spots to go to the restroom. So we are at the North Rim at Lookout Point.
There's a big overlook down there.
There are no bad stops here, so if you can't do them all, any one that you pick is going to be spectacular. They're all just slightly different vantage points. So this is essentially the same view, not quite as spectacular as Artist Point. It's just a little closer to the falls. Artist Point is farther down the canyon, so you get a little more of the color of the canyon. Now, there was a spot where you could look over those falls, and I think that was the brink of the falls that we just passed here on the North Rim that we didn't stop at. Because the falls we were at were pretty spectacular, but it was not that tall of a drop. So we probably missed something pretty spectacular, but you can't see everything. Stopping at Grandview here on the North Rim, and the lighting is pretty amazing here this afternoon. We've got a little bit of cloud cover, so you have like shadows and bright spots. It's really gorgeous. All along the canyon you can see people at all the different lookouts, but look at the water down there just glowing. So we've officially made it to the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. This is the spot at Grandview. Varies from 800 to 1,200 feet in depth and from 1,500 to 4,000 feet in width. It's about 24 miles, and the upper 2.5 miles is the most colorful. Let's go see what this is all about. Now here's what you can find at Inspiration Point. A lot of mosquitoes throughout the park, by the way, but you have to kind of make one last turn off the North Rim Drive, and you come down to an overlook, and there's several different levels of platforms here. You can just barely see the lower falls that are way back there. And then I'm going to go down one more level, see what the view's like from down here. Okay, well, I think we've seen the falls from every possible angle. So if you're into photography and you want to get like the different lighting conditions, there's lots of different angles, different sides of the canyon, different views. And there's a trail that goes along the rim. I saw a guy resting with his bike. He was biking up and down the rim. That would be so much fun. All right, next up is Canyon Village for some caffeine. It is now about 1 p.m. and I'm getting tired and a little bit of a headache. Since I typically drink coffee all day in my office, it's quite unusual to hear sirens here in Yellowstone, and there was some cops with their lights on, national park rangers with their lights on, so I don't know what's going on. I hope somebody didn't get hurt. But now it's time to caffeinate. And so here back in Canyon Village, there is a fountain grill, there's a general store. I did see bear spray rentals here. If that's something you're interested in, they do have that here. General store, souvenirs, sporting goods, probably a restaurant, fountain and grill. Okay, anything you want in there. We got some sweet coffee to get me through the afternoon, but they have a little bit of groceries if you wanted to get like sandwich makings and stuff. They have in there. They even have beer. They had like a soda at this fountain and grill where you can get drinks. They had an ice cream line for ice cream. Great store. All right, off we go. We've just traveled from the Canyon Village up around the North Loop is what we're going to take next. And so we've stopped here at Tower Falls. I don't know what to expect here, but I'll tell you the drive between Canyon Village up this way north on the east side of the loop, it is so beautiful. These views of the mountain ranges, it reminds me of what images I've seen of Switzerland. With snow on the mountain peaks, it's so beautiful. You can see for miles and miles. I was surprised to see a general store here at this stop. Looks like another place you can eat, get supplies or souvenirs. Hot dogs, bison brats, and ice cream. Huh, that's interesting. So we're going to continue this path. This is called the Tower Roosevelt. And we're going to walk to Tower Fall Overlook. So there was a lot of commotion there because somebody spotted a bald eagle. Now they pointed it out to me. I would not have seen it otherwise, but it was perched on a tree branch, kind of low. And I tried to get some pictures, but I don't have a good enough zoom lens. So I'll show you here what I captured, but it's pretty bad actually. Between my zoom lens not being that great and my eyes not being that great, I couldn't quite tell when it was focused. But anyway, it was exciting to see in the wild a bald eagle. All right, so we're headed back to the next stop. All right, it's hard to make much progress on the road because there's so many cool places to stop. So the next stop that we saw was called Calcite Spring, I think, and just piqued our curiosity. So we're gonna stop here and take a look. And right before here, it was the coolest geology where the rocks were in these columns right by the road. But then across the road, where you look deep into the canyon, you could see the different layers of the, where there's like a layer of the columns and then regular dirt and then another layer down below. Super cool. So down in the bottom there, I'll show a zoom closer up image. That's where the spring is. It says it's closed to visitors. It sounds like people have tried to get down there. So down by the water's edge in that little cove is where there was a hot springs. We didn't see, it didn't seem to be steaming or anything, but the views were quite spectacular from up there. And you can smell it. You can smell that sulfur smell. So on to the next stop. Somewhere near the Tower Roosevelt turn, we ran across another few bison. If you head east here through Lamar Valley, that's where you're supposed to see large herds of bison often crossing the road. We did not head down that way since we're focused on the upper section of the Grand Loop and it was already getting late in the day. We made the next section of the drive without too many stops. We did skip Undine Falls and the Petrified Tree. As you approach Mammoth Springs, start looking for elk as they do frequent the area, especially this time of year. We did spot a few relaxing. I was surprised to see so many buildings in the Mammoth Springs area. This serves as the administrative headquarters for Yellowstone National Park, and is also near the north entrance to the park. In the early days of Yellowstone, this was called Fort Yellowstone. It was in the late 19th century when the U.S. Army used to manage the park. The Visitor Center was originally the Bachelor Quarters, and it was built in 1909, and the Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel was built in 1936. It's one of the oldest operating hotels in Yellowstone. This is its own destination worthy of a separate stay. We headed over to the geothermal formations here, which is a unique terraced formation made of travertine. Getting fairly late in the day. It is close to our dinner time, but we finally made it to Mammoth Hot Springs. Now this is a really cool spot with all these historic buildings, cabins, a visitor center, a big old lodge, a lot of really cool stuff here. This would be an amazing place to stay. We're short on time because we don't like to skip dinner, but we're gonna check out the views here, do a little bit of hiking. We may not do the whole thing, but we're gonna go to the lower Mammoth, and then we might drive up to the top, do the upper, and then we got to head back to West Yellowstone, and we'll be seeing more of the park tomorrow. But anyway, we saw elk along our drive, we saw more bison. It's just hard to make much distance because you just want to stop everywhere. There seems to be just a little bit of water coming down these hills, and I imagine all the minerals over time have created this buildup, these stepping stones of beautiful colors. Didn't resist but hike up to the upper terrace. The first parking spot was open. Incredible views of Mammoth down below. Didn't use my external mic today because that's just more equipment that can run out of battery and mess up. So hope the wind isn't too noisy, but we're gonna hit up more steps up to the top. So this is Mound Terrace, and it's quite beautiful this time of the afternoon. The water is sparkling down these terraces. Really gorgeous. And the contrast of colors between the brown and the white rock and the white puffy clouds and the blue sky, it's so gorgeous. The hot water that feeds this area comes from the Norris Geyser Basin that we visited earlier in the day, and it travels through underground channels that's being heated by the Yellowstone caldera. So this trail continues all the way up to the top up there. There's also an overlook drive up there. And like I said, down in the lower terrace, we're getting hangry and time to get back to town for dinner and wrap up today's voyage. So we're not going to walk all the way up to the top, but this is super cool because of the layers and the texture and the colors. It's otherworldly. Be sure and subscribe. We will be traveling the southern loop next week, and there is so much more to see. Thanks so much for watching.